Welcome to Photoshop User TV, produced by Photoshop User Magazine and the National Association of Photoshop Professionals. And here are your hosts, the Photoshop guys, Dave Cross, Matt Kloskowski, and Scott Kelby.
This week's episode is brought to you in part by CDW. For hardware, software, gadgets, and more, CDW has the right technology right now. And iStock Photo, the world's preeminent collection of member-generated royalty-free images and digital art. On1 Software, developers of award-winning plugins that help you maximize the power of Photoshop.
Well, welcome everyone to a... See, there's a writer's strike going on, so we don't have a word that we normally, every show we say a word, so I don't know what that word would be.
I got one.
Okay, go for it.
Holiday.
Nice.
Holiday. Not Christmas.
No,
holiday.
Holiday. Very good. Welcome to the holiday edition of Photoshop User TV, brought to you by the National Association of Photoshop Professionals, publishers of this wonderful magazine, Photoshop User Magazine.
Look, it flies.
As it often does. Now, as you can
Glad
tell,
we don't make knives.
That's right. As you can tell, we've gone all out for this holiday version of our show with our huge decorating budget here. Big time stuff. You can see that we're all set here. Now, oh, that's nice. What we really mean by holiday edition is we're taking a holiday from all the normal stuff we do and just going tip, 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 see you next time.
Yep.
Right? That's the whole idea. Because the whole point is spend time with your families. Enjoy your holiday time. Because we will.
And that's your first tip, isn't it,
That's
Dave?
my first tip. So that's the first one down. 3 more to go.
Okay.
Go for it.
I'll kick it off here. So I actually saw this, a friend of mine had a wedding book created. And the way that they laid the wedding book out was pretty cool. They laid it out into sections, and in each section was kind of like, I guess you can call it almost a homepage photo, where it was
like a title page or
the
something?
transition between each section here. So they had a really nice effect, and of course it depends on a certain style of photo. But here's a great example where you can see that the arm is kind of hanging downward here. So I'm just going to take my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm just going to make a just kind of a rectangle area across that part of the photo, and then I'm going to add a new layer on top of the background layer. Next thing I'm going to do is fill that with black. If I just press the letter D, tip number 1, that sets your foreground color to black.
Ooh, that's a tip.
Tip number 2, if you want to fill with that color, just press Option Delete on the Mac or Alt Backspace on the PC. And then I'm going to deselect here. So you can see that I have filled
Wait,
that.
that's another tip. Deselect.
Oh, gosh. Command or Control D to deselect. Sorry.
Ding. That's another tip.
We're just racking them up. All right, so now what I'm going to do here is just drop the opacity down, and you can start to see that that'll start bringing in the photo behind it. But here's where the technique comes in. I'm going to zoom in and go right to the area where that rectangle covers the arm, and I'm going to add a layer mask to this layer. I'm going to take my brush tool, and I'm going to make sure that my foreground color is black here, which means that I'm going to be painting on this layer, which will be hiding part of the layer. And I'm just going to zoom in here, and I'm going to start to paint over the arm. Okay? And I'm just going to do it on the arm, any part where the arm intersects with this dark rectangle. I'll just take that paintbrush, paint on down. And if you happen to go over too far, which I inevitably will do at some point here, I haven't done it yet. There we go. Yeah, see, I couldn't go that long.
I know you did that deliberately just to demonstrate the technique. Right?
No, I really am that bad. So what we're going to do here is if you happen to go too far, what you can do is just press the letter X, switch your foreground color to white, and then come back in here and just paint those areas right back in, just like that. All right, and then you can press X again, switch back over to black, and finish things up here. Let's see if we can actually...
Imagine you could also change the brush size on the fly if you wanted to.
You could, but again, I'm too bad for that. And let's go ahead. There's one small little area right there. All right, so once you get that all painted away, I'll zoom back out here, and you can see it looks a little bit jagged right there, so I can just come in there and make it look worse. Let me get that. There we go. I'm sorry, I'm being really, really, really picky about this. But there we go. Now you can see that you could see the arm over that rectangle area. And then what they did is inside of these transition pages that they had, they just put a little bit of text on top of there. So right there, we'll just position some text at the bottom there. And if you're curious as to the font that I used one called Handwriting Dakota. It's kind of a little handwritten font, if the name didn't give that away for you. And
It's a tip.
So
if
there
it's
you have it.
handwriting, probably is a handwriting font.
Yes. So that's a technique there. So worked really nice in the album that I saw it for. And now you can do it as well.
Cool. And I could see that's one of those things where you could apply that same theory to all kinds of
Anything,
photos
yeah.
with objects.
I mean, it doesn't have to be. Yeah, it doesn't have to be wedding. It could be any type of a photo where you want to show off. Whatever. I'm gonna stop. Let's just go on, Dave.
You know what he means.
Yeah.
You can use it many different ways.
Yes.
All right.
Hi, and this is Photoshop User TV, breaking news. The big news today is online training at Kelby Training. And you're thinking, well, I've been to KelbyTraining.com. I know they sell books and DVDs, and I've even taken an online training class there. Well, there are still books and DVDs at Kelby Training, but the online training is so much bigger. And instead of going in and buying an individual class, now you buy a subscription and you can take as many classes as you want. And there are tons of classes. We've already got 34 classes online. And these are all the big instructors. Of course, all the Photoshop guys are there, Scott, Dave, and Matt. And then we got the guys from Layers TV, RC and Corey. But we've also got some of the world-class photographers and Photoshop trainers from all over the globe, people that you usually have to fly and take special classes from them, or maybe see them at Photoshop World, and that's about all the access you had to them. Well, now you've got full access in classroom settings online at KelbyTraining.com. Now let me go through some of these instructors because you won't believe the who's who of instruction in Photoshop and photography. Katrine Eisman, Bert Monroy, Dan Margulies, Ben Wilmore, Eddie Tapp, John Paul Caponegro, Terry White, Moose Peterson, Joe McNally, Rich Harrington, David Zeiser, Faye Circus, Vincent Versace, and more. And those are, I would love to take just a single class from these folks, and for $199, you can take as many classes as you want for an entire year, all year long. Download the practice files, work at your computer at your own pace. It's $199 for a year or $19.95 for a month. Now, if you're a NAP member, you get a discount. It's $179 for all year or $17.99 for a month. And one of the really cool things is it's not just classroom training. A lot of these people are pros in their field and they literally teach best out in the field. Like Moose Peterson, we sent a camera crew to be with Moose out on a wildlife photo shoot. And so he's going to teach there and in the classroom for a combined session you wouldn't believe. And then Matt Kloskowski, he's got something that we call ACE Boot Camp. Now at Photoshop World, for several Photoshop Worlds in a row, he teaches an all-day class for people that want to be an Adobe certified expert in Photoshop, an Adobe ACE. His ACE Boot Camp is $199. Well, now it's a part of this. It's a huge value. And you're going to see that coming in the next few weeks. So go on over and visit the website, KelbyTraining.com. Click on the link for online training at the top. And you can even try out some free individual class sessions to see what you think of it. It's an amazing value, tremendous pool of instructors, and you're not going to see anything like it anywhere on the web. That's it for breaking news this time. I'm Larry Becker.
Well, my first little quick technique for you is for a situation like this. And you can see what I have. If you look at my layers palette, I have a color photo. It's a wonderful iceberg from Alaska, to which I've added a black and white adjustment layer and then a type layer. And what I'd really want to do is have the color of the iceberg show up inside the letters of the word ice.
I don't think you can do it, Dave.
No, I can't. So back to you.
Tip number 2 from Dave Cross. Don't even try.
In the past, what I would have done, frankly, was made a selection out of the type and filled the layer mask, which would have worked. It would look like this. So I would select the layer, go on here, and then fill with black. So I'd get the effect that I wanted, but the problem is it was a selection, so it's not very editable. So when playing around, I realized that there is a solution for this. It's actually very simple. You just double-click on the type layer to get to the advanced blending options, and one of them you'll see, if I zoom in right here, is called Knockout. And all you have to do is change this to, in this case, either shallow or deep, because I don't have any other layers other than the background layer. And watch what happens when I lower the fill opacity. Oh, look at that. Then the color shows right there. So it's a pretty interesting technique, very simple to do, and all you have to do is play. If you only have regular layers, it'll automatically go right down to the background layer. If you have several layers in a group, it'll go to the bottom layer in that group. So some pretty interesting ways. It's not the most intuitive thing in the world, but for something like this, it's pretty simple and gives you a very quick effect, just like that.
Very Dave Cross-like of you.
Well, I try.
All right.
I don't know what that means.
Well, we have more tips coming up, but before we do that, we're going to take a quick break. So we'll see you in just about 30 seconds.
Yeah, Bob. We're gonna need some stuff. Lots of stuff, actually. I'm gonna need 6 notebooks, 3 printers, an office phone system, a wireless network, and software, of course.
Need a better way to work? Try the new Adobe Acrobat 8 Professional. Create, combine, and control Adobe PDF documents and collaborate with virtually anyone, anywhere. For the latest in Adobe software, we're there. CDW.
Well, we're back.
We are, all of us.
All 3 of us.
So in keeping with this quick holiday version, you know what? It's right to another little technique from Matt.
Hi. All right. So this one is very, very simple tip. It's the quick selection brush. My tip is use it. There we go. Actually, you ever see anybody give you the tip? Here, take a look on screen here. Let me make sure I'm still recording because it's a vital part to what we do.
Especially when you say, look at this.
Yeah.
Kind of important.
Take a look on screen here. So, here's a good tip for you. Go to a little brightness contrast tip for you, image adjustments, brightness contrast. You know the best thing to do here? Cancel.
Perfect.
Now, the quick selection brush. So if you don't use it, it came with Photoshop CS3, and it really is, it's probably, I think, one of the best kept secrets inside of Photoshop CS3, because I don't see a lot of folks using it, and it is such a kick-butt little selection brush here. So what you do is you select it, and it is just a brush. You use it like a brush tool. I mean, here's a real simple example. Just click and drag, and you can see it selects these areas here. And if I click and drag somewhere else, and somewhere else, and somewhere else, it's automatically in add mode. So it just keeps selecting things. And then let me show you one more here before I get into the real part of this tutorial. Take a look here. Go try this on a photo of somebody's shirt, and take the magic wand tool and try to select all the parts of their shirt. As easy as that. Seriously, I challenge you to do it. You will not be able to do it. I've tried to make this tool not work. So here we come to a different photo here, and I'm going to show you how to use the quick selection brush and then the refine edge dialog with it. So quick selection brush, really, really easy. There's one little option up here. See the auto enhance option? Dave, when would you ever not want
It's like saying,
your selection
make it
auto
better.
enhance? Yeah.
No, I don't want to use the make it better button.
No.
I'll do it the difficult manual.
Yeah, I purposely like to make mine look worse. So I always check auto enhance. It may take a couple more seconds for your computer to process it, but camera 2, it's not that big of a deal. So all you got to do here is I'm just going to start to click and drag all around here, select lots of the bride and groom, just like that. And you can see as every time you go near an edge, it kind of starts to creep out a little bit more. And there. So now I've made a selection, but got a couple problems here. This middle area obviously should not be selected in between the two. So I use my left bracket key and take that brush down really, really small. And then I'm going to hold down my Option key on the Mac, Alt on PC, and just click inside there. And what that's doing is that's saying subtract this area from the selection. Okay? Now it went in here and it subtracted too much. So let's zoom in and see the damage it did. All right, so it subtracted too much, so now I just start to click. I don't have to hold anything down because now I'm automatically back in add mode, and I'll just come inside here and I'll add the rest of this selection back in. And we'll come in down here and we'll add that back in as well. And so now we should have a pretty darn good selection around the bride and groom. And we didn't have to go and use channels. We didn't have to use a lot of different complicated selection tools. I'm going to be really, really picky here. Let me get around. Really picky, as in I want to
You don't want to cut off part of
I
his ear.
do want to select
Boy,
his
that's-
ear.
You're so picky.
I know. And the side of his face here. But it really is a nice tool. It sticks to those edges pretty well. All you got to do is zoom in a little bit. Okay? So now that you have your selection, now you got to do something with it. One more area, sorry. The rest of her hands. Okay. Now you have a selection, you got to do something with it. Click on this Refine Edge dialog. If you haven't used this one yet, this is another one of those things that really shines inside of CS3. And I'm going to take all the settings, drag them all the way over to the left, and then we'll set Contract Expand at 0. Radius, what Radius is essentially doing is it's taking the edges where you have soft transitions and it's making them better. So the easiest way to see what happens here is leave it at 0 and then crank it way up and watch. You can obviously see that it starts to encroach in onto the selection here by looking at those edges. By the way, you can click down here and see your selection over different backgrounds. Okay, so depending on what you're selecting, I usually like either the black or the white. So we can take this white one here and you can start to see it encroach in there. So when I see that, I start to pull back a little bit. Okay, and that smooths out your edges. The next thing we have here is contrast. And what contrast is going to do is if you have any softer edges, it's going to make them harsh or crisper. All right, perfect example, crank this one way up and you can see right around here these edges start to get really, really almost stair-stepped and jagged. So I'm not going to want to do that too much, but if you have anything that's a little bit soft, you can make it just a little bit more crisp there. Smooth is a really good one. What smooth is going to do, and the main place that you're going to see smooth is, take a look over on the right side of the gentleman's face. You're going to see, although it looked a little bit jagged before, you're going to see all those jagged areas start to smooth out. Okay? And that's the best explanation of smooth, is it smooths things. Okay? Feather's exactly like the setting that you would find under Select Modify. Okay? It's just a different place to get to it. All right? And what you're able to do here is what we never could do, and that was visually feather.
Preview.
Yeah, preview a feather. So now I can feather that selection, and what it does is it makes the edges softer, not something that we want to do in this example here, but maybe just a little bit under 1 pixel here, just to kind of make that edge a little softer. Contract and expand just pulls the edge in, or it pulls the edge out. It adds more area, or it contracts the area that you have selected here, and it's based on a percentage basis. But that's how you can make better selections. Use that quick selection brush, and then you get in there and follow it up with the Refine Edge dialog, and it really does give you a quick selection in the end.
And it's, you know, the part that impresses me the most about it, I remember when I first saw it and I looked in the options bar and said, how can this tool be any good? There's no options other than the size of the brush and those little like auto enhance. But boy, it worked. Unless you're talking about really crazy tree branches or flyaway hair. Other than that, if it's got an edge to it, it does a really good job.
It's the selection tool I use the most, definitely.
Definitely the one I start with. I'd like to add one little tip to Matt's, since I was watching him do that. He showed you how in the Refine Edge box there are these different views you can look at. You can actually toggle through those by pressing the letter F on your keyboard. We'll toggle through the various little views if you very quickly want to look at something without having to click on the buttons. I mean, it's like the lazy man's tip. If you can't move your mouse all the way down and click on a button, you know, then you're lazy. But in our efforts to give you every tip possible, there's another one for you.
That's like a bonus tip.
It is a bonus tip because that was not my tip at all. I just saw you doing that and thought, hey, here's a tip. Because this is a tippy show.
Tippy.
A few hours later at the holiday party, it'll be a tipsy show, but not right now. Okay, so here's my quick little tip, and this is definitely the experimental phase of our program because you never quite know what you're going to get from this as the snowman dances. It's like a soap opera.
Snowman dances.
So here's what I have. I have a color photo.
I love you, Dave Cross.
Okay. That brings distractions up to a whole new level from what we're normally used to on this show. Anyway, back to our story.
You melt my heart. Sorry.
Here's my color photo with a black and white adjustment layer. And my goal is to see what kind of weird and wacky things can I do, because I thought, you know, I could lower the opacity a bit to let some of the colors show through. That's kind of okay. Maybe try some blend mode, and that will have some effect, but I want to try something really crazy. So double click, go back to that same advanced blending option we talked about before, and look at the blend if sliders. And we're going to take this layer and start to move the slider. And you see, as I do, certain areas, the lighter colors will start to come in. Then I pull the black triangle. I'm still going to get kind of a wacky look. So this is where I definitely need to do this part right here, which is hold down the Option or Alt key and split those triangles into two, which is going to give you a smoother transition. So what you're going to have to do in a case like this is probably do a little bit from the underlying layer as well and split that and take this one and split it. And as I said, very experimental. You never quite know what you're going to get. Sometimes it'll look like this, very bad. Other times it'll look pretty good. And you can even look, I'm even crossing triangles. There's like some rule against that, but I'm going to do it anyway because this is the experimental
Ghostbusters.
tip. So try it yourself. I think you'll find on some photos it'll offer some really interesting possibilities that you certainly did not have before. So,
Well, Dave Cross.
well, Matt, I think we've done our bit. There's one remaining thing we need to do. This is the holiday show, and in keeping with holiday tradition, you're getting enough gifts, so there's no contest this week. But there was a contest last week,
Yes.
and we asked you some crazy question about some thing that looked like this. No, it was a. I know it was a cone inverted. Ha! Okay, I'll show you where you find it. It's right here. Bevel and Emboss, gloss contour, and there's one right there.
Good
Look,
Lord.
It's called cone inverted. I told you it was hard.
It was hard because I searched the help file. I didn't even find it.
So for the 2 people that had the correct answer, I don't know if there were 2 or 7, this person won. Congratulations to you for winning that prize.
Merry Christmas.
And Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and
Sorry.
all those things that we celebrate in
Holidays.
our various religious beliefs. Next week will be another short show because it happens that next Monday is the New Year's Eve thing.
New Year's Eve, yes,
So
yes.
in a couple of weeks, we'll get back to our regular schedule of long, involved, heart-breaking shows with way too much information and contests and stuff like that. But for now, I think we're done.
We are done.
Would you say so?
On behalf of myself, Matt Kloskowski, and this guy, Dave Cross, that's me. I'd like to wish you and your families a very, very happy holiday, and we'll see you again soon on Photoshop User TV.
Thanks for watching. Thanks.
Snowy, I thought you loved me, not the tree.
All you like is your car. That's all you care about.
Snowy, why do you sound like a man?
Oh, sorry. All you care about your car. I can't stand it anymore. I'm leaving.
I cannot go on. I will drive over the cliff now. I'm taking the dreidels with me.